Howdy, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Movie Mook. This is gonna be a little side project that, thanks to the help of a friend, MDT, I'll give him a bigger shout out towards the end, where I just talk about movies. And for my first movie, I was going to do a different movie, an American movie, but I had a friend of mine, his name's Zay, shout out to him. He suggested this movie, Drive My Car, which is a foreign film from Japan. It's on HBO Max right now. If you have it, I highly recommend you go watch it. Spoilers for you, for those who haven't seen this movie. If you want to see this movie, I highly recommend you do. It is 3 hours long, and it is honestly just I was moved by this movie. It's a drama, so no really like action or anything that you really like. If you get bored easily of movies and dramas aren't your thing, don't watch this. This is a 3 hour movie, like I said before, so it is kind of a snooze fest if you're not into movies and everything. But for me, the cinematography and the shots and honestly the whole storyline and everything was just amazing. I haven't seen a foreign film in a while. I think the last foreign film I saw was Parasite, but I'm not really big on foreign films. I typically try to stick to American movies. I know, I'm not the best when it comes to all that stuff, but and I do apologize in advance if I butcher the names of everybody in this movie, because they are from Japan, or they have different backgrounds, so I do apologize in advance for butchering the name. But also, huge shout out to Zay for this movie was on my watch list before, but he also just like reinforced everything for me to watch it, to really get me behind to watching the movie. Director's name is Ryusuke Hamaguchi. Writers are Haruki Murakami. It's based on the short story by Ryusuke Hamaguchi and Tamaka Co. The stars of this movie are Hirotoshi Nishijima, Toko Miura, and Reiki Kirishima. And I am getting most of this info off of IMDb. Huge shout out to IMDb. This is where I'm getting all of my movie info and trivia from since I got into movies, honestly. So huge shout out to them. But the movie is on HBO Max. It is like I said, 3 hours long, or 2 hours and 59 minutes if you really want to get into it. But spoilers ahead, sorry in advance, but it is about a renowned stage actor and director who learns to cope with his wife's unexpected passing when he receives an offer to direct a production of Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima. So let's get into it. The beginning scenes of this movie is honestly very, very well done. He's in bed with his wife, and she's telling him a story, but it's just so gracefully done, where it's like there's really not much focus on the nudity. Even though there is nudity in this movie, like it's to the point where it's like almost like the shade of the way the movie was shot is like blurs out the nudity, so you can't really see any significant parts. So honestly, if you have a big problem with like nudity and stuff, this movie isn't gonna really show that, but it is gonna show like love making or sex, or whatever you want to call it. But the movie starts out with him in bed with his wife, and his wife is telling him a story or something, and he kind of adds on to it, or he doesn't add on to it. And they finish whatever they're doing, and he has to take off for another job or whatever, and he goes on a drive and whatnot. And I've only seen this movie one time, but I'm just giving you my raw opinion of it. He takes off on a job for this next screenplay that he has planned, and you could tell his wife is very loving towards him. Like, Like even before he has to leave for the airplane, his wife is like kissing him very romantically, like, oh my god, like you think it's getting really hot and steamy, and he's like, oh, I have to catch a plane or whatever to go to shoot my next play or whatever. So he gets in his car or whatever, which is actually a very strong focus point of this movie is his car. It is called Drive My Car, by the way, if I haven't already said that. So he gets in his car and he's driving, and the whole time he's driving, he's rehearsing, for the play, and his wife reads the dialect for him, and he has it all very planned out. That's why he always listens to it in the car. So he's driving to the airport, and he gets to the airport, and he's about to like check in for his flight and everything, and then he gets a text saying that it's been pushed back a day. So he's like, okay, that's fine, I understand. So he gets back in his car, and he's thinking like, oh, I'm gonna surprise my wife. That's great and everything, because it was getting kind of hot and heavy before he left, and maybe he wants to continue that once he gets back, surprise her. So he does that. He gets back in his car and he drives back to his wife, to their apartment, and he's about to go in, and you hear classical music playing, or I don't even know if it was classical music, little schmiz, sorry. And he gets back into the apartment, and he literally, he just tries to sneak back in. He wants to surprise his wife, and he literally sees his wife having sex with another man on their couch, and they're like in the throes of passion. Like her eyes are closed, she's bouncing up and down, the dude's faced away from the door or whatever, he's going to town on his wife or whatever. Honestly, my heart sank, my heart broke, as you can see. I really felt for the guy. I honestly didn't want to continue watching the movie because like my heart just sank. Like it just, like that's because it just showed such strong emotion beforehand, before that even happened, before the infidelity came to light of him and his wife and all the love they had for each other. It was just so strong, and then for him to come back from the airport and literally see his wife in having sex with another man, it was heartbreaking to me. It was just, I was like, like all I had lead up before this movie was knowing that his wife passes away tragically. So for him to see his wife, just going at it with another person, it broke my heart. And so he's a playwright. I'm sorry if I didn't mention that. So he writes plays, he acts in these plays, and his wife also is a screenwriter. She also acts in these plays, and so we see like one of the before we even get to that scene where he comes back from the airport, his wife goes to support him on stage at one of his most recent plays, and she's just there, and she actually introduces him like, oh, this is the one of the young man that's in one of my new screenplay dramas, and he meets him or whatever, and she's like, oh yeah, like I barely had time to make it and everything. And then later when you discover that they were secretly having sex, you're just like, oh my god, maybe that's why they didn't have time. And to me it's just like the audacity she has to introduce these men to him, and then later he finds out that she's cheating on him with these men. It broke my heart completely, and I was just like, wow, like the lies and everything is very emotional. Well, at least for me. I don't know how it will be for other viewers, but it's just like, because that's his wife. Can you imagine like you coming home from work, and then you literally, as soon as you walk through the door, see your wife in the throes of passion with another man? That's gonna cause some emotion in you, to the fact where like I was watching this and it even brought up some old emotions in me, and I had to really convince myself, like, do I want to watch the rest of this movie? Because it was just, that right there already was just like it was hard, but I got through it, and I kept watching it. And so he realizes his wife is cheating on him, and instead of bursting out and going like, what the fuck, man, like you're cheating on me, like I can't believe this shit, why would you do this to me, like any normal response that you would have to finding out that your wife of 10 plus years has been cheating on you. He just doesn't. He just quietly sees that they're having sex on his couch, and he just leaves quietly without them even noticing. And he goes and he rents a hotel. And guess what? Like that night, his wife calls, and his wife's like, "Oh, how was your trip, honey?" and everything and all that. And he just acts super casually. I mean, he does smoke a cigarette beforehand, maybe to alleviate the stress. I don't know if him and his wife were like, "Oh, no smoking, that's not allowed," or if that was the thing, and that's the one thing he's allowed himself to do. But he is smoking before he gets a FaceTime call with her. So he smokes a cigarette, and then she calls him. He answers, and he just completely chalantly just fucking just like, "Oh yeah, honey, I made it. The trip was fine. I'm in my hotel room. They all look the same." Little to her knowledge that he was still in the same city. He just went to a different hotel room. And he just plays it off super super casually, just like, "Oh yeah, production or whatever." And he stays there, for the time being. And then when he comes back from the trip, his wife says, when he comes back from the trip and he's talking with his wife, they meet up again. They make love or whatever. They have sex, and it's also super passionate. And one of the things that kind of caught me when I was watching it was when he walked in on his wife, the position that his wife was having sex with the other dude. When he starts making love to his wife, he's usually in one certain position, but he decides to switch it up and try the different position that he saw his wife having sex in. So he tries that position to see if that invokes like a different reaction, and everything's still the same. In fact, he makes love to her like 2 times before that. And then afterwards, like the next day, his wife kind of comes out to him and tells him like, "Hey, I want to have a talk with you about something." And he's like, "Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I'm actually super busy today. I have to like go out and do some stuff." And he actually has nothing planned that day. Like there was nothing in his schedule that needed him to be away. But his one of his main coping mechanism is that he likes to drive. He likes to drive his car. And so that's what he does, is he spends literally the whole day just driving about, trying to like get his mind off things. And this is where the plot kind of comes into play. So he comes back from his drive, finds his wife on the floor. Turns out she had a cerebral hemorrhage, and she ended up passing away, which works into the plot, like I said before. Also, another thing the movie doesn't tell you is that they had a child also beforehand, and she also passed away. I'm also guessing maybe it was from a cerebral hemorrhage, or no, it wasn't actually. I lied. I just remembered. It's she passed away from pneumonia. But you do realize that they had a child, and she passed away fairly young. I think at 4 or 5. And they have a talk about it in the car, saying like, "Oh, like we could always try again or whatever," after they like go to her grave on the anniversary or anything. But then now his wife's dead, his child's dead, and he holds the funeral for her and everything, and whatnot. And coming back to what I said before about her kind of introducing, because she was sleeping with the guy that was in her TV drama production or whatever. She actually introduced her husband to the dude that she was having an affair with at the time. And he met him and everything. And like, like a lot of people, like me included, if like I walked in and I saw like the love of my life having sex with somebody else, I'd freak the fuck out. Like that would invoke some emotion out of me. And he just didn't. He just walked away and just played it off like it was nothing. And like, he's like, to be that strong, man. I wish I could. So like I said, his wife dies, so he holds a funeral for his wife, and you know you feel sorry for the guy, but you're also like mad at his wife for cheating on him and everything. Like, how can you cheat on this guy? He's just like, oh my god, like, oh man, like he's in great shape, like he's got everything going for him, and yet she still chose to keep on these extramarital affairs. So he hosts the funeral, and guess who shows up? The fucking dude who was having sex with his wife. And you would think like I would fucking punch him, you know, like all these things in your mind are racing, like I would fuck him up if that was my wife and I saw him having an affair. Like, how dare you come to my wife? But he just kind of accepts it and just like, oh, like, oh, it's fine, it's whatever. And the dude who, you know, was having sex with his wife is just completely oblivious to the fact that he knew, and just like, yeah, I'm really sorry about your wife, she was a great person and everything, you know, I was working in her TV drama or whatever. And he's just like, oh, it's fine, whatever, shakes his hand, they bow, and then, you know, life kind of goes on. And then 2 years pass, and he back to the plot here, he gets invited to this one theater festival where he has to, you know, do a production of Uncle Vanya. And I am reading still off of IMDb. I'm really sorry, I've only seen the movie one time. So he's in charge, he's the director of the whole play. And you know, like he's looking, and then, you know, as a director, he has to look over the actors who are going to be in his play. And as he's looking over the actors, guess what? The dude who was having an affair with his wife pops up as one of the actors that has auditioned for the part. And if you were me and I were you, you already know, you'd be like, fuck that guy, I'm not gonna have him in my play, he can go eat a dick, you know. Just very, very, you know, emotional about the whole thing, jealousy and whatnot. And he doesn't, he sees his audition and he goes, you know what, that dude was actually good, I can actually see him as the whatever for this, you know, as this character for the play. So he gives him the part, he gives other people the part. There's a lady, I don't know, I think she can't talk, I think she's a mute, so she uses sign language. So he gives a part to her. There's a lady who can speak Japanese. She speaks Mandarin, so she says her whole part. I think that's one of the things I actually found very interesting was even in the play, if somebody gets the part and they're not of Japanese descent, you know, they still get the part and they say their part in the language that they're from. So like, if a person from from China got it, they do their part in Mandarin. Kind of like this death lady, she also got a part, and she speaks in Korean sign language, and they still gave her the part. They actually have a big screen in the background that actually just translates everything. So I was like, that's pretty cool. It actually made me want to go see a play in Japan. We'll see if that ever happens. So you have these characters. Also, you know, you have him. He gave a part to the guy that was having an affair with his wife, and you're just thinking like, why would you do that? Why would you like in my mind, I'm just like, that's crazy. Like, why would you want that around? That's just negative energy, you know. It's just like, but like the love this dude had for his wife was just so deep that it's just it surpassed normal relationships. And he also gives this part to this lady who I think I said before, she speaks Mandarin. She's not of Japanese descent, so she doesn't know, she can't speak Japanese, but she does speak Mandarin. So she says all her lines in Mandarin or English. She actually knew English, but the director also knew English, so he was able to like talk to her in English. So like I said before, he gives this part to the dude that was having an affair, and he's a good looking dude. I'm not gonna lie, he's a good looking dude. He's like a young stud or whatever, and he's in the play. And kind of almost immediately as they're like having the auditions, and he's auditioning for this part, and he's also auditioning for the part with the lady who doesn't speak Japanese but speaks Mandarin. and she gets the part and he gets the part. He like even during the audition he kind of like pushes the boundaries a little bit, and that's fine, you know. You know, it has to do, you know, it does what it does. He got the part. He let him be in the play. She got the part. She's also in the play. And he has this he has this car. I think it was a 300. I can't, if I give me a chance here I might look up the car. But he has this very not old car, but the his car is very it's very attached into the movie. And when during the time when his wife was alive, she doesn't drive the car, he drives the car, but there's a scene when they're driving the car and they get into an accident, or he gets into an accident, and the doctors actually say that they did a scan of you know his brain and his eyes and everything, you know, as you should with any accident, and he's actually developing glaucoma. So when he starts this theater festival gig that he got, they actually assign him a chauffeur to drive him around. He can't legally like drive his car during the production of this play, even though he was kind of cleared by a doctor and everything, like he was okay to drive. The insurance required that during the production of the play he be driven around, and that's kind of how where everything kind of goes into the plot of the movie. The car is a Saab 900, and let me tell you, after watching this movie, I want one of these cars. It's reliable. Even in the movie, he says he's had it over 20 years and it's never given him an issue, and he just, you know, he would use it as a way to actually learn lines for whatever play production he was doing. So that was, you know, that was a great way of putting it into the plot. And honestly, when he's driving the car, what he does is he actually has his wife read opposite to him of the lines that he's supposed to do for whatever play he's doing. So he's listening to his wife and he's giving back the lines like on cue, like perfect, and it really was amazing. So after she dies and everything, and then he has to do this new play, which takes 2 years after her death or whatever, and he's still driving around listening to her read back the lines to him, and then they give him a chauffeur, and the chauffeur is a young lady. She's in her like early 20s, and you know, he even has her like play the tape as they're driving around and stuff, and it doesn't bother her at all, and she's a great driver. He even acknowledges like, you're actually a really great driver and everything. And as they're driving around, they slowly start to give each other bits of their life. Like he starts to open up about his life and about his wife, and she starts to open up about her life and why she's a good driver. And I don't want to ruin it, like specifically, like I don't want to say why she's a good driver and everything, but there is some trauma in her driving. And honestly, the way that it works its way into the movie was just, it was honestly perfect. Like I don't know if they did win an Academy Award. I think they might have. I seen some pictures of him holding an award, so I think he might have gotten it for best foreign film. It was honestly just like, it was just great. Like even as heartbroken as I was in the beginning after seeing his wife be, you know, seeing his wife cheat on him and stuff, like the way that worked into the movie. So my bad, getting off track here. So as the production's going around, the guy that was having an affair with his wife, and you know he gave like one of the lead roles to, he actually starts having a relationship with his opposite castmate, the other lead, and he starts having kind of a, you know, a relationship with her, which to me in my head kind of like speaks like this dude can't keep his dick in his pants or whatever. But you know, so he starts having, you know, extra, you know, like after the play or whatever, he's like hooking up with her or whatever, and the director kind of sees like, oh, this dude can't like, you know, keep it in his jeans, and I think he even like calls him out on it, and they get caught and everything, but he still allows him to be in the play. So like I said, a lot of emotional strength coming from the main character. And so he allows them to continue into the play, and the dude kind of has a thing because he's kind of a superstar. He's a celebrity, so he's been in other productions and stuff like that. So whenever they go out, people take pictures of him, and he just absolutely hates it. Like without a doubt, he's like the Adam Sandler of taking pictures. He's just like he fucking hates it. And so, he allows it to continue. He catches them a couple times, but he doesn't let it get in the way. There's other little tiny details I don't want to go into that just make this movie great, but so he ends up being okay with it. And after a couple drives, like the dude who was having an affair with his wife tells him like, "Oh, I want to like take you out for drinks and stuff." And they reminisce about his wife because he did know her in like a professional setting. So at first, he tries to like say like, "Oh, it's a professional setting. I knew her from our time together working on that TV drama or whatever." But after a while, like it does come out like I knew she was having extramarital affairs with the people in the production of the movies or the TV shows that she was working on. And he actually says that he was okay with it and he never interfered with it, and he didn't actually want his wife to know that he knew because he was so afraid that their world would never be the same. And I'll let you watch the movie, that way you get an understanding of what I'm talking about, of how their whole dynamic of the relationship would work after the death of their daughter or whatever. So and then the actor kind of realizes like, oh, he knows that I know, and kind of comes out and tells him something that only his wife would tell him in like the throes of passion or whatever, because she had this like weird way of coping with stuff. Well, not weird, just different way of coping with stuff, where she would say stories in bed or whatever. And for me, it's kind of reminiscent about that one story about I can't exactly remember, but he was this king, and he would have a wife, and as soon as he would get bored of his wife, he would like have her killed or whatever. And the one wife he stuck with was a wife that actually knew a bunch of different stories, and every night she would tell him a story and she would leave it off as a cliffhanger, and then in the morning she would kind of tell him what the cliffhanger was. That way she wouldn't get killed and he wouldn't get bored of her. So that was kind of reminiscent about that. I don't recall what that story was called. I'm really sorry, but it was reminiscent. It was very, very good, heavily focused on storytelling. I also believe that this movie was based on a book. So if you want to read the book, I believe the book is of the same name, Drive My Car. I'm not 100% sure. I'm only going off of IMDb here and my knowledge. Also apologize if my roommates, if you hear them. But yeah, so the production's going. He figures out that, it comes to light. He finally confronts him. Well, not really confronts him, but just kind of casually tells him like, I know my wife was having extramarital affairs, and you know what, I don't care, because at the end of the day I knew she still loved me and I still loved her, and I didn't want things to change. That was just so sweet, and everything. And then once he's he some of the chauffeur that's driving him around, her story kind of comes to light, and they kind of really learn about each other through the driving of his car and and whatnot. There's a couple instances where he asks her to drive him around to like spots she thinks is interesting, because she's not from Hiroshima, she's from somewhere else, which actually turned out to be like a day and a half drive away. So at one point he actually does ask her to like, hey, take me to where you're from, and then she takes him where she's from, and she gives more of her backstory while they're there, which was honestly just brought me to tears. It was just wow. It was so sad, but at the same time it was just so fitting, and so fitting to the theme about grief and moving on and putting things behind you. And then things kind of go for the worst because as they were like finishing up production of the play, the dude that was having an extramarital affair, he ends up beating this dude to death for, guess what? It's for taking pictures because that's like his one pet peeve is people taking pictures. So he beats up a dude and the dude ends up in the hospital and he gets arrested and he can't finish the play. And so they give him about 2 days to decide if he wants to continue the play or not. And he already knew the lines because he's been practicing them with his dead wife or whatever in the car rides. And so that's when he kind of asks the girl to drive him to where she's from, and you get more of a deeper understanding of where she's coming from. And honestly, that was just it was very reminiscent for me. Like every time I drive out of my hometown and I go somewhere far, I always kind of look forward to the drive back because it reminds me of where I've come from and who I am and the things I've endured, which was kind of the same for his chauffeur. I want to say her name. I think her name is Tuka Miriwa, and she plays Misaki Watari. And you get to understand where she's coming from and how she learned to be such a good driver at such a young age. And they kind of just, bare their souls to each other on this last final drive that they have. And they come back and the dude's the other guy who's the lead in the plays in jail for beating the other dude up, so he can't do the play, and he kind of takes it upon themselves like, okay, I guess I'll be the lead. And he does it. He is the lead, and he becomes the lead, and he finishes out the play, and it's amazing. He gets a standing ovation. Everybody loves it. And she's the chauffeur's in the crowd, and she's just kind of speechless and everything. And honestly, the acting in this movie, even the little subtleties, the emotions, the way you see people's emotions, and the way different people deal with grief or deal with these things, because like his love for his wife was just so strong that it even surpassed her cheating on him, even though like she wanted to talk to him and he didn't know what that talk was about. Like, what was she gonna say? Was she gonna come clean about her affairs and whatnot? And then he was just so scared of it that he didn't want to come back home and whatnot. So he just kept on driving as a therapeutic release, because I kind of also do drive as a therapeutic release. But the movie as a whole, even in its 3 hours, is just it's amazing. It's just, I loved it. The ending is one of those like interpret your own kind of endings, so I understand if some people don't like it. But like I said, spoilers ahead. Spoilers, a lot of spoilers. So the movie ends after the play and everything, and you see the chauffeur picking up groceries at the store and everything. And then when she goes back to her car, she actually goes back to her car, which is his car. So kind of like leads you to think like, what did he do to the car? Like, are they like now a thing and she's leaving with him? And like, are they a couple? Are they not a couple? Did he give the car to her as a way of like saying like, this was my life before, but now this is my life now, and now I'm gonna move on, maybe buy a new car and other stuff like that. And honestly, I was very moved by this movie, even though I've seen it one time. Like I said, it's a 3-hour watch, so definitely if you don't have the attention span for it, go watch something else. Punch Drunk Love is only an hour and a half long, so I recommend that one. So go watch something else if you don't have a long enough attention span. But Drive My Car is on HBO Max. I can't recommend this movie enough. It honestly moved me to tears, and I hope I haven't given enough. I hope I haven't given, even though I have revealed some pretty big spoilers. I hope I haven't, like, haven't I can't even put it into words. Hope I haven't discouraged you into watching this movie, because it is worth the watch. And honestly, this movie was very beautiful. I do see why he won an award for it. I also, like I said, I believe it is a book. So if you really want to get more into it, try to find the book, translate it into English, hopefully. And yeah, I don't want to give this movie like out of stars because I'm not really like a reviewer or a person who says like 3 out of whatever stars or whatever. Like it's not really me. So I'm just gonna say like if this is just like if you're gonna watch a foreign movie, this is a good foreign movie to watch. Like I said before, it is 3 hours, so be very like if you're not into long movies, I'm sorry, but maybe go watch Parasite or something. It's also a good foreign movie to watch, but that's gonna do it for the first movie Mook review. This is a different thing that I'm doing for my podcast slash also YouTube channel. So if you want to catch a YouTube video of me talking about it, it will be under Cannibal Cards. Also do Mario Kart and Pokemon. So if you are interested in that, look me up on YouTube. But that's going to do it for this episode of Movie Mook. Huge shout out to MDT giving me this idea about doing a movie review for the first time, and my buddy Zay, who also told me about watching this movie. And yeah, it's on HBO Max. I highly recommend you watch it if you're into dramas and foreign films. The original title is Durai Duraibu Make. And I know I'm probably butchering the names of a lot of things, but I'm kind of, you know, couple glasses of tequila in, so I work my courage up to do these things. But thank you for listening, and I hope to catch you on the next Movie Mook reviews. Thank you. Thanks for listening.